We're recording. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Game Plans podcast. Today we have a really special episode. We have one of our good friends, Eddie Knezevich, on. Really excited to have our first guest. We've been talking about this for a while. Eddie's a great friend of Steve and I, and someone that motivates us. Someone who we can talk about life, about entrepreneurship. Um, he's uh, someone that we can bullshit with, and also just focus in on talking about growing our life. Someone we really appreciate. So thank you for being our first guest, Eddie.
Thank you guys so
Got a
much for
good one.
having me. I really appreciate it. And amazing opening.
A little bit about Eddie before we start off. Eddie's the president and CEO of NLF Partners, a nationally recognized advisory firm specializing in advanced balance sheet and tax efficient planning strategies for banks, business owners, and professional service firms. He works directly with CEOs, CFOs, board of directors, managing partners at the highest level. He's Million Dollar Roundtable top of the table producer and one of the most driven people Steve and I know personally. But beyond all of that, he's a husband, a dad of three, and someone who has built something genuinely impressive starting from zero. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys again for having me. Appreciate it.
What's
So,
going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you guys doing? How's the weather down in Florida today?
It's good. It's 80 and sunny.
It's awesome. It's 92 and sunny here in Ohio, so
Love
shouldn't have moved
yeah,
away.
Eddie and I are going to hit the beach after this.
Yeah, we're going to Alum Creek Beach if you ever heard of it.
Let's get some rock skids on your knees.
All right.
Sand.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Um, you graduated from Ohio State with a degree in political science. Nobody hears that and thinks future financial advisor. Walk us through the moment or the series of moments where you figured out what you were actually going to do.
Yeah. So a little bit of my background, because the audience probably doesn't know this, but grew up in a single parent household, just me, my mom, my sister. Dad really wasn't around for my childhood and didn't really have a tight relationship with him up until the point that he was almost passing away. And so I was the first person in my family to even get the opportunity to go to college, let alone graduate. But I switched majors three times at Ohio State. I had no clue what I wanted to do. Even when I got out of school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was always really good at people. And so I spent my entire college career. I actually started a business when I was in school, and I did promotions in nightlife, promoted nightclubs, bars, concerts, that kind of stuff. That's how I paid my way through college. And then when I got out of school, I was one of those guys that I didn't want to be a 30-year-old bar rat. So when I was 22 years old, I said, no matter what happens when I get out of school, I'm going to get a real job and go into corporate America or go work for somebody else or go start something. So when I graduated from college, I was originally going to go to law school. So a couple of my buddies and I, we took the LSAT together, did well on it. I actually got into Ohio State and got into capital law, and I was going to go to law school, but he's still a close friend of mine, and it was actually ironic. I introduced him to his wife, but one of my buddies, he was a couple years older than me, and he was graduating from law school when I was getting ready to go into law school, and he came from a very prominent local family, names on buildings, that kind of stuff. And he was struggling with finding a job in the legal market. And he was like, you're leaving college completely debt free. You know, if I were in your shoes, I would go get a job in corporate America. Like the law degree will help you in advancing your career in corporate, but it's not actually if you want to be a lawyer, it's going to be really tough in this market, in this environment. And this was back in 2011. So this
Mm-hmm.
was kind of right after the recession, the global recession. So there wasn't a lot of law jobs. And this was coming from somebody whose family had their name on buildings. He was struggling with getting a job. So he was like, if I were you, I'd go into business or go do something else. It was probably the best advice I ever received in my entire life. And so at that time, I went and I got a job in corporate America as a marketing coordinator for Designer Shoe Warehouse Corporate. And I absolutely hated it. I was there for under a year, and I went in and I had my first annual or my first performance review, and I was one of those guys that was always the last one in the room, or I'm first one in the door every day, last one to leave. I always did other people's jobs for them, always went above and beyond. And I thought when I went to my first performance review that I was going to, essentially become the president of the company next year.
Right.
And I got
That didn't
humbled pretty,
happen.
yeah, I got humbled pretty quickly. And anyways, I scored the same as everybody on my performance review that was on my team. That didn't bode well with me. And so I realized quickly that I needed to mirror my attitude towards the work environment with something where I would actually get compensated based on the effort that I put out. So I realized that wasn't going to be the right career for me. So long story short, didn't work out at Designer Shoe Warehouse Corporate. Ended up kind of just searching for things on my own for a while, and I stumbled into a career consultant um, that worked pretty closely with a lot of high end C-level executives here in the state, and kind of helping them when they got to their midlife crisis, kind of what was the next phase of life, what did that look like? And I took some personality assessments, and those personality assessments led me to one of two paths. Path A was um, going down the medical device sales route, and path B was financial services. Well, if I rewind a little bit, when I was in college, I switched majors three times because I wasn't good at the math part of college. So I couldn't do anything. So my degree is actually a bachelor's of arts, not a bachelor's of science, because I couldn't get through the math portion of the majors. So I was like, okay, this financial advising thing, this isn't going to work out for me. It's not going to be good because I suck at math. And then on the flip side, I wasn't going to be good at the science portion or
Do I need to find a new
uh,
planner?
yes, please. And so on the science side of things, I was terrible at I suffer from white coat fever, so whenever I go into the doctor's office, I got to get my blood pressure checked twice because my blood pressure shoots up because I have a disdain and fear for physicians' offices.
Okay.
So
Tiff has that.
I'm not going to do well in either of these things. So then the career consultant was like, you should really look into financial services. Like half the industry is going to be leaving within the next decade. And there's a lot of opportunities to buy businesses. There's a lot of opportunities to grow. And you don't actually have to know math because all these products, tools, vehicles are already created. There's smart people in the background. It's a relationship driven business. So started looking into it. I went out and I signed up for a securities exam. I got sponsored by Morgan Stanley, and I went and took it, passed the first try, and I was licensed to, sell securities. And then I started kind of in my path and journey down in financial services. So very unorthodox pathway to getting to where I ended up. But yeah, poli sci grads are not running out the door to come and join the financial services world. You're absolutely correct.
That's awesome. So, I'd say you got in the industry in 2013, and what was the first year like? What was getting that piece off the ground like? How did you build your book of business,
I
etc.?
I didn't build much. It's funny. I show a lot of my friends this, but my first year in the business, my tax return was $13,000. So I was literally dead broke, flat busted. I was driving a broke down Nissan Sentra. I had a mirror hanging off the side of my car, and I didn't do very well at all. I sucked at it. I was just trying to absorb as much information and learn from the people around me that were successful. But the first year was terrible. I was living in a basement apartment in the worst ghetto in Columbus, Ohio. I had one window, I had one stovetop burner that worked. I didn't have a dishwasher, and the place was mold infested. And literally every day I would go home and I was just like, it cannot get any worse than this. So the only option I have is to either, get better or go bankrupt. And when you're literally cooking ramen noodles and throwing hot dogs in them, it doesn't get much lower than that. So I just realized that the only place I could go from there was up. And then what happened was I had a mentality shift. I was a big I've always been a big visualizer and manifester. And so what I started to do was I started to drive. I would take my broke down Nissan Sentra and I would drive out to New Albany, and I would drive my car into these really wealthy neighborhoods. Then I would park on the street and I would go sit on these people's porches and I would wave to neighbors and I would act like it was my house. And I would take myself and put myself there and I would feel, what does it actually feel like to be in this position, to be on the other end of my dreams and my desires. And it started to click. I started to get into rooms that I couldn't get in before. So like kind of fake it till you make it. But it ended up just kind of compounding and rolling a little bit quicker for me than I would have expected. The other thing was, one of my mentors early on, he told me that focus beats brilliance. So like a lot of guys are always trying to reinvent the wheel, come up with this new way to do things. And like he was like, the highest producers, the most successful people that are in this industry, they just do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they replicate the process, not the product. And so I really got obsessive with process and client experience and what would I expect if I were on the other end and I were coming into somebody's office for these same things? What would I want it to feel like? And how would I deliver something that is different than what's out there in the street today? And so that's where I started focusing all my energy and attention, was just on process, process, process. And then I started to pick up some clients, it started to get a little bit better, and kind of the trajectory started from there. So I'd say like 2015 was really when I kind of got my feet underneath me and started to see some wins in the business, if that makes sense. So first year and a half, 2 years was pretty
Hmm.
rough. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it. And then things started to kind of snowball from there. They really got good in 2020. So when the world was shutting down and everybody was freaking out, that's when things really got good. Then really the last like 3 or 4 years is where things kind of took off. And I've been holding on to my seat, and I still don't even know where I'm at.
That's
I
great.
want to go back to something. So you and I obviously met. You were at Principal. I don't know if you remember. We met at a group networking thing. We were
Yeah.
both wet behind the ears at the time. But you mentioned something that I want to go back to. You mentioned fake it till you make it, and I want to hang out there for a second. And that phrase is often it's used often, and I feel like sometimes the fake it till you make it is not it's you're figuring out who you are. You're not faking anything. It is actually like just buried deep inside you, and you got to kind of live it until it comes to life, right? Like so I want to hear your thoughts on that
I
just for a
completely, I
second
completely
because
agree with it. Like since I've been a little kid, I've always envisioned my life looking the way that it looks now. But at the time, you have imposter syndrome because your surroundings and everything in your life around you is telling you that this is the life that you are here on earth living. But in your soul, in your fiber, in your being, you're like, this isn't what my mind and my soul are telling me where I'm supposed to be at. It's showing me, the mansion, the nice cars, the big office with all the people that work for you. But like, you can't say that to the world because the world's saying, hey, you're just a poor guy living in a basement apartment in the ghetto driving a broke down Nissan that can't even get a client. And so, yes, to your point, I completely agree with you. I think that it isn't necessarily fake it till you make it. It's fake it till you make it in the eyes of the rest of the world. But inside of me, I always had a chip on my shoulder and always
sure.
thought that where I'm at today was where I would end up.
I
And,
think
and you hear all these professional, all these high level professionals, and I didn't mean to speak over you, Brooks, but like
that's okay.
there's like this quote, and I'm gonna hopefully not butcher it, but it's like everybody thinks you're everybody who accomplished anything was delusional until it worked. Like
Yep.
you're delusional, delusional, and then all of a sudden you're a genius. And having the faith and the backbone to be like, no, this is who I want to be. This is what I believe myself to be. It's buried in here. Like that takes a lot of courage. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the other piece of that that the fake it till you make it mentality. I think the other piece of that is also acknowledging that the best of the best, the people that you look up to, whoever, all have insecurities themselves, all are learning on the fly, all are just we're all in the same boat, right? And the
Yes.
differentiator is the hustle, the relentless focus, whatever. And I think if you can put yourself in the mentality that, hey, we're all sort of, even the people I look up to are insecure about what car they drive or what what they're doing on a daily basis. Even if they have something amazing, they're still thinking about um, why they have it, etc. So I think it's important to acknowledge that the people ahead of you are also feeling in the same boat as you, and it makes you feel less like an imposter and more like you're on your way.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about your mentors.
So I've had a lot over the years. I don't think I have like one person that I've attribute everything to. I've had people that have come in and out of my life throughout my career that have helped me get from one phase to the next phase. Some people who've been in there for a little bit of time, some people who've been with me throughout the entire time that I lean on a regular basis. But yeah, I've had in the business, I would say my four or five biggest mentors in the business, two of them are female, three of them are male. Two local females that absolutely crush it in the financial services space, run their own independent practices. They gave me the nurturing side of the business, the human element to it that would not have been there without them. They also gave me the systems and processes and the feel good stuff that you don't see from the male dominated side of the business. So I am indebted to them forever for that. And then on the other side of it, I've got a guy that I've stayed in touch with that was one of my first bosses when I got into the industry. And he just gave me a lot of honest information. The reason why I ended up at Principal and working for him was he was the only guy that shot me straight. Everybody else was, selling me the dream that, you get into this industry, you're going to make $1 million, you're going to help all these people, it's going to be amazing. And he was like, no, it's going to suck, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be hard. You're going to hate yourself for 5 years, but eventually it's going to work out. It'll all be great if you can get through these things and you can do these activities every day. Eventually, it's going to pan out, and you'll call me in 10 or 15 years, and you'll thank me because your life is has transformed beyond what you ever even had in your own mind as imaginable. And he was right. And then I've had, people that aren't in my industry that have mentored me along the way that are just good, sharp business people. I mean, you guys have helped me out with things along the way. I've got other friends that I've leaned on for different pieces of advice and different things that are business related or non-business related, father related, friend related. Um, Life's hard to juggle these days. I mean, it's not how it used to be where, your focus was only two things, where every single person is distracted by these, and unfortunately we can't turn them off and we can't walk away from them. So it's a never ending, perpetual, we're always available, we always have to be on as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. You can't ever take a break. And it's a gift and a curse, and I think it's a gift because it helps us stay connected and stay in front of our clientele, and it helps us build deep relationships and um, help impact people's lives in a meaningful way. But it's also negative because nothing ever turns off, and you do always have to be on, and you've always got to have an answer. And if you don't, there's somebody else out there that will. So I think it's been a gift and a curse at the same time.
So tell me a little bit about we're going to talk a little bit about you sort of your knowledge, expertise, your grind. One thing I want to kind of touch on is, with your knowledge, I think a great question to ask is one of the biggest mistakes that you see business owners making with their own finances. The thing that makes you cringe when you talk to a client in a situation. Um, something that maybe you see over and over again. I know you deal a lot with realtors who are often fly by the seat of their pants entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Only
Um,
often?
Go ahead, Steve. You had something else you wanted to add.
No, I was gonna say only often is I think it's more than often.
yeah.
Yeah. I would tell you guys this. Number one thing I see that drives me nuts is business owners that hold too much cash. Everybody says cash is king. Cash hasn't been king for a long time. Inflation will erode cash.
I feel attacked.
So what'd
Hmm.
you guys say?
I said I feel attacked.
Yeah, you're one of the ones on my list. So business owners that hold too much cash, it drives me nuts. I'm just like, grow your money, utilize leverage. That's where you should be living. Um, Other things that drive me nuts about business owners that like paying too much in taxes, like they don't mind getting smoked in taxes. There's easy ways to build pensions, non-qualified, qualified plan stacks that you can build that can reduce that liability down to next to nothing. So like people that just don't want to pay themselves, their future version of themselves today to reduce their liability down. Another one is not uh, thinking that their business is a sellable asset without them a part of it. Most businesses, this is a
Mm,
really big misconception, but like most businesses depend on the business owner for it to be a sellable asset. And most business owners think that if they walked away from it or they sold it, that they're going to have this massive windfall. So there's a lot of people in America that don't plan for retirement. They don't plan for the future. They put all their eggs in the business basket and they're not setting enough money aside for the future for a rainy day. And they assume, oh, I'm going to sell this thing later on down the road. And it's like, in theory, that sounds amazing. And yeah, that sounds great. But what if it never happens? Or what if nobody ever wants your business? Or what if your industry flips on its head and you put every dollar you have back into your business? Now you have nothing on the side and you basically bet your whole life on something that may or may not be there. So I would say those are kind of my three common threads that I see a lot with business owners in the United States that I always tell them, number one, cash is not king. Debt is king, believe it or not. Smart debt, smart leverage. Number two is you should be reducing your tax liability down. If your CPA is not helping you with those kinds of things, you need to fire your team and get a new one. And then number three, I would say that business owners that think that all their eggs should be in that basket, the business basket, and not thinking about the future far enough ahead. And you got to start setting money aside, compartmentalizing it, and building your own exit strategy. So if you get taken out, if the business is not sellable, or if your industry gets flipped on its head, you still have a nest egg that you can fall back on. And just like corporate employees, you have something there that you can take with you when you leave that business. So I'd say those are the three biggest challenges that I see in the business market today.
well, you that third one you touched on, and I've spoken to people about this often, is you don't have a business, you're just an employee of your own company because if you remove you from the equation, you don't there's no company anymore.
Correct.
So you don't, yes, you're an entrepreneur and you on paper have a business, but you don't really have a true business. And then the test of that is like, can you take a 2 week vacation and the business run?
Right.
Or did the wheels fall off and you come back to dumpster fire?
Yep.
Um,
And
and that's not to,
most people, it's the dumpster fire.
well, and you're going to have some of that, right? Like that's just business. But like if it can't be sustainable for like a week period for you to walk away, you don't really truly have a business. Again, you have just your own company that you're an employee of. And like you said, that's not a sellable asset because if I remove you from the equation, what am I buying?
And do you
I
think
agree.
that's a result of not having the right processes, being too far in the weeds, being not having the right personnel leverage where they're taking care of the tasks that need to happen every day? What's
I honestly don't
uh,
know. I don't know if it's one specific thing or others. I
case
just I
by
just know
case?
that there's just too many business owners that have this mentality. And I don't know if it's education. I mean, you got to think about it. This is kind of crazy. I saw this the other day. You don't have to have a degree to start a business, but for most businesses, you have to have a degree to work for the business owner. So guys, there's a lot more people that are like me that were C average students that weren't very intelligent that own the operations, but they're hiring people that are smarter. And unfortunately, after college, the education stops. You as an entrepreneur, you got to go out and seek it out. You got to go out
Right.
and find groups and people and things to start consuming to actually learn how to grow. Because if not, you are in a vacuum living in your own world and in your own existence, and you're trying to grow and climb and achieve for your family, but you're not thinking about the rest of the world necessarily. And so you have to seek out new knowledge to take your life to the next level. And most business owners don't want to do that because they have too much on their plate already. So a lot of times it's not lack of processes, it's not lack of people around them or help. It's they just don't know who to turn to and what is good in disseminating what is good information from what is bad information.
You think about it, and like even the stuff you learn in school 10 years down the line is old now. So like you real school begins after school ends,
Yeah.
right? Like if we were all to just live on our laurels of whatever we learned in college, we wouldn't make it very far. Like who like you said, who are you surrounding yourself with? What mentors do you have? Do you invest in yourself with coaching? Like what are the last 12 books you've read? Like where are you truly investing in your personal professional development, and that will give you the tools to necessary to take those steps. Because I feel like Brooks, you know, of those three things, it's a combination of all of them is
Right.
why businesses fall into that bucket. Like you don't have the right people, you don't have the right processes, you don't, you know, take the necessary steps, you don't invest in yourself. Because while people want to say on paper they have a business, they also refuse to invest in it. Like to grow, just like Eddie manages people's money, like to grow your assets, you have to invest. You have to have money in there to grow. If you don't have any money, it's you're going to look at zeros on a screen. But the same thing is true with your business. If you're not pouring into yourself and all of the elements of your business, like I can't get if I take a flower and put the pot outside, I'm in Florida, it's hot. It's going to die in 2 days. Like
Yep.
I got to nurture it. And your business and your professional development's no different.
I
I learned
completely agree.
I learned that from Marilyn the first year in the business. I looked at her, who's she's one of my closest mentors, and she's the goat of Columbus real estate, in my opinion. She's uh, top producer year over year, top three agents in Greater Columbus, probably state of Ohio. And when I learned she was learning something new every single day, it lit a fire under me to make sure that I was learning something new every single day, no matter what. So to that point, I think Eddie, how do you challenge yourself to learn and grow, and where do you gain that knowledge towards future growth from?
Yeah, so I've been, well, first of all, I have a business coach, I have a personal coach, I've got a therapist. So I'm constantly, I require myself at least monthly, 3 to 5 hours a month on personal development on those kinds of aspects. But then I also, every single year, I make myself go to two conferences or like weekend lock-ins or getaways where it's just me and a pad and paper, and I'm kind of resetting and focusing on personal development and growth. Um, Also, like I've slimmed as I've grown and as I've scaled, I've slimmed my life down to focusing. I tell Steve this all the time. I focus on my 5 F's. I focus on my faith, my family, my friends, my fitness, and my finances. And like those are the only 5 things that I focus my energy and attention on. If it doesn't fit into one of those categories, it doesn't fit in with me or within my life. So I truly have, it's funny when you're in your 20s, you take on so much. You get into your 30s and you start to push things away. Now that I'm, going towards the end of my 30s, I'm on the tail end of my 30s. I've slimmed it down to my focus is so small. It's only on those 5 things. And so I'm able to be more intentional. I'm able to be more impactful. I'm able to see measurable results in each of those areas because I'm so focused on them. So, like for example, fitness, like I lost a bunch of weight over the last year, year and a half. And I didn't get hip with the Ozempic craze like everybody else did. I had a diet plan, I've had a trainer, and I've stuck to the strategy, right?
Hmm.
Same thing with my faith, like I'm able to have a relationship with God the way that I want to have it because I've focused my energy and attention there. My business has skyrocketed 70% growth from last year, not because I'm just that much better at what I do every single year. I still do the same process. I've been able to implement that process throughout my organization and bring more people in to facilitate that and grow and scale our footprint. So again, and on the other token, fatherhood. I've been able to spend more time with my children, go on more vacations, be more intentional. They tell they do a weekend report at school, and I've been included in that weekend report almost every other time, whereas 2 years ago that wouldn't have been the case.
Right.
So I've been able to be a lot more intentional with those things, planning trips with my friends and doing things that I've never been able to do in the past because I've slimmed my focus down to those five things. And if it doesn't fit in, I'm able to, hyper focus on the things that are truly important to me and that move the needle for me personally in my life, rather than being distracted by the next shiny object.
Was fatherhood an aha moment in that regard?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, especially when you grow, I mean, and Steve and I have talked about this too a lot. I grew up, my dad wasn't really involved in my childhood at all. He was a very absentee father. And then even when I got to the age where I wanted to be included in his life, he kind of pushed me away. And so I don't know how to be a good father. I just know how not, or how to be a terrible father and what not to do. So I've always just done the opposite.
Hmm.
And so I'm figuring it out as I go. And I know a lot of dads are in the same boat. Like we all struggle with the same things. Like, you know, uh, the first 6 months of a child's life, every dad, there's no dad on the planet that can look me in the eyes and say they didn't feel useless or meaningless at one point.
Right.
Or like they didn't feel a connection with their kid because their child was breastfeeding with their mom and didn't smile at you but would cry when they're with you. So like as a father, I think once your kid gets to the age where uh, they truly are dependent on you and you can take care of them and it's not just solely on the mother, you do have an aha moment. And like, so I still don't know if I'm doing everything right. On the surface, I get a lot of people who are like, man, you look like a great dad. I'm like, dude, there's days where I go home and I'm like, I'm a terrible dad. I really am. I'm messing this up. I'm messing these kids up. I'm messing myself up. And I'm probably not. I'm probably actually doing a lot better than I think I am. But I just know the example that I had was so horrible that I just know what not to do. And I just try and do the opposite of it. But I don't think that I get everything right. I think that, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still trying to perfect the craft of fatherhood, but I don't think I have it all figured out, and I don't think I'm the best dad on the planet. I think I'm the best dad for my situation, for my children, and I know that their childhood is much different than mine looks, but
Hmm.
by no stretch am I a saint or the greatest dad on the planet.
All right. So the narrative about work-life balance that gets thrown out consistently. This is Steve's favorite topic.
Get me
Uh,
fired up.
I guess you have a passion for what you do over here, and you have a family that you love and is really important to you over here. You're trying to prioritize both. How do you sort of wade through that on a day by day, on a month by month? How do you sort of make sure you're taking care of both to the best of your ability when you really, we both understand being pulled in both directions at once?
Um, I'll say that this is kind of like fatherhood. It is a constant battle. Um, I did come to a self-realization at the end of last year and the beginning of this year that for me personally, um, I wanted to make 2026 a year of family and spending more time with them and seeing my kids grow because uh, at the end of last year, my daughter, she's 2, my youngest daughter's 2, and she's already potty trained. And it took my other kids till like 3.5 and 4. And so like we have no diapers in our house anymore. And it was like kind of like eye-opening, like we don't have to
So now
unpack
you come
milk.
back.
What?
No, I said, so now you come back.
Yeah. So it's funny, it was like a weird realization that, that phase of life was done because we're not having any more children. So that was like tough for me, like, oh wow, like time is really flying. My son is 6, my youngest is 2, and my middle one is 4. And I literally have 14 years or no, 12 years left until he graduates. And I have 16 years left until the youngest one is out of my house. And like the last 6 years just went by quickly. So, doing the math, 6 more years, like I'll have 10 years left and that's it. And for me, that kind of like opened up my eyes. So over the last 6 years, I've always, work has always, my business has always been my first baby. And that was definitely challenging for me and my wife when we first got together, that was my first child. Because again, I didn't come from money. I didn't come from,
Right.
I didn't have my dad in the picture. So like, I was always like, hey, like I'm going to be the provider and like that is my role. That's my responsibility to everybody in this house. And everything else is going to come second to that. That shifted a little bit. So over the last year, I got to I don't want to say I got to a complacency point, but I got to a comfortability point where like, I wasn't dependent on the next paycheck to live the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And I could actually take a significant step back from an income perspective and still be fine and still live the same lifestyle that we're living. And like when I had that realization and I had like a personal net worth number in mind that when I hit that, that like the worst case scenario, if everything went to crap tomorrow, like we would be fine and like we could still stay in our house, we could still drive the cars we're driving, kids would still go to the same school. It's like, you really don't need the rest of it. It's all just like icing at this point. So I kind of changed my outlook on what the future was going to be like for the next 16 years while my kids go through school. So uh, it'll always be work-life integration, but I'm taking more time for the life portion and less time for the work portion. And that's just me where I'm at in my stage in life. You would have asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, I'll work until the wheels fall off. But like now I'm saying no a lot more. I'm sticking to my laurels. If I have a day off, I'm not taking a meeting if somebody wants to meet. My calendar right now is booked out a month, and I'm telling people like, that like I had a prospective client say like, is there any sooner you can get me in? I said no, I can't. And I said it's not to be rude. It's just unfortunately our business is doing really well. We're extremely busy, and that's the next available time that I have to meet with somebody. Like if that doesn't align with your goals or your vision, unfortunately, I'm probably not the right fit for you. So I've gotten to the
Right.
point where I'm starting to family's my number one priority, and I want to be there for my kids. I'm at my all my son's lacrosse practices, all my son's hockey practices. I go to my daughter's dance and cheerleading practices and those kinds of things. And like, I want to maintain that because my parents weren't there for any of my stuff when I was a little kid. So I'm the annoying dad that's on the sideline screaming and yelling that all the parents are like, "You're embarrassing. Sit down." I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be obnoxious. You're going to keep hearing me yell. But that's what I've always wanted to do, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Those moments when you realize the kids have hit a milestone really hit hard, or they've transitioned into a new phase of life. Like our oldest, we put on all his baseball stuff the other day, and he threw on his baseball backpack, and he had the bat in there and a water bottle and everything. He's wearing his jersey, and I had a moment where it was like, oh my gosh, he is like not a little guy anymore. He's, almost, it almost feels like a teenager. He's 6, but it's like he's, he's going to win or lose a game right now, right?
Yeah.
And that was the first thing. And then I was talking with Monique out later, after we put the kids to bed, and she had that exact same moment at the exact same time, and we both sort of recognized it separately, and it was both like a oh shit moment. And we both got emotional without telling each other, but it's those things that just hit so hard, and you're like, God, I don't want to miss those things. I don't want to regret not being around for that. I don't want to, look back and feel like I missed it. Even though you have this extraordinary draw to be a provider, a grower of your business, etc.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
So, um, I guess, how do you manage, uh, let's say, your relationship with Madison, or how do you like communicate with her about your busy schedule? How do I know she's has her own interests and things like that she does. How do you sort of work through that um, communication?
Yeah, so it's funny. This is an evolution for us as well. So when we first got together, like she was always under the impression that she was going to work and I was going to work. And at the time when we first got together, like she needed to work because like I wasn't doing as well. My business wasn't doing as well as it's doing today. And so like things have changed so fast. Like we joke with each other. We're like, sometimes we're just like, is this real life? Like we were actually just sending each other pictures this morning of our first kitchen that we had together 7 years ago, and we're like, we thought that kitchen was so big and it was so awesome, and we were like, yeah, it's a kitchenette. It's not even a kitchen. And like we were just like laughing about like how quickly things have like snowballed and moved forward for us. We've been very blessed. But still to this, just up until the end of last year, she didn't even realize, even though I had been telling her for years, hey, you don't have to work, you can stay home. Like we don't need, your income. We want you to be focused on the house and me to be focused on, driving the revenue for the family. And it took a long time for her to come to terms with that because she was holding on to the fact that she had dreams and desires that she wanted to. And then when she realized that those really weren't serving her and they weren't her dreams and desires anymore, and we actually did a lot better when we operate very similar to a 1950s family. I'm the guy who goes to work every day. She's the homemaker. She's taking care of the kids, the house, laundry, making sure they go to and from all their activities, all that kind of stuff. And I'm the income provider. I'm the one who's out driving and making sure that all of our investments and our ventures and our bills are paid and all that kind of stuff. So we operate very similar to an old school 1950s family. And it took her. She didn't necessarily think that that was the direction that we wanted to head. But then when we realized that that was the best for both of us, and it took us to the best place for the best version of ourselves for us and for the best version for our relationship, um, then she was all in. But in the beginning, it was tough for her. She wanted to have an entrepreneurial journey herself. She wanted to build a business and do this similar things that I was doing, and we were spread very thin. And there was tough times, fights, things like that that happen in relationships because we weren't staying in our lanes or we were trying to do too much of somebody else's job. And
Or you're just overstretched,
yeah,
and
we're just stretched too thin,
having
like
kids
most.
can do that.
Yeah, having kids can do that to you. And so when we both realized, hey, this is my role, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is what's best for our family, things clicked, and it's never been better.
That alignment with your spouse is just is paramount, right? Like and like you said, you're gonna have moments, right? Like and I think if we all share some of our worst moments, this podcast might go viral. But 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 you go through that, right? Especially, I mean, and that goes for if you're an entrepreneur or not, right? Like especially when you have kids, man, you throw two people, and you think about it logically, like Tiff and I got married. She was very young. I was young. Life changes, your goals change. Like I'm glad that the person I am now is not the same person that I was when we got married, and like navigating that together. Not only that, like for you, your goals have changed, your business itself has changed, what your business requires of you has changed. So like you two being an extension of one another, it's just super important to find that. I just keep coming back to that word of alignment with your spouse or your significant other or whoever, right? Like, because otherwise, like if you're both rowing the boat in the opposite direction, it's not going to work. Um, And again, it's not to say you're not always going to be going in the same direction, but like coming back and realigning and finding that centeredness is important, and it's cool to hear how you guys have navigated that.
Yeah, we have. And you know, it's funny, like she was really against it when we first started together, and now she's like all in on it. And she's like, I don't know why more people in our situation don't embrace this, you know? And I'm like, yeah, it's great when we're all on the same page and the boat's rowing in the same direction. It's nice, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we've
Find the
never had
harmony.
so much alignment.
Well, it goes back and it helps that work life. I call it work life harmony. That's my terminology, but like it assists in that. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to have harmony when at home everything is just a shit show. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to have you go show up to work, you're grumpy to be around. You probably don't show up as well for your clients, your employees, your coworkers, like your counterparts. Like you're mentally over here somewhere. So no, it's super important.
Hmm.
Say, who's had the biggest impact on your business? Not necessarily a mentor, but someone
My
that you look up to, or someone from your life that's had the biggest impact on where you are today.
my 8-year-old self.
Why is
I
that?
like that answer.
Um, because I've always had a chip on my shoulders and I always wanted to impress him more than anybody else.
I like that.
So when I got into business, like I got into it selfishly to prove to my child, to my inner child, that I could achieve everything I wanted to achieve. And now when I look at my life from an outsider's lens, looking, you know, onward, I look at it through the lens of the 8-year-old boy, and all I care about making proud is him. And then behind him, it's my family. So
What's something that the 8-year-old boy wanted you to do that you haven't done yet?
what would he want me to do that I honestly nothing so far. Like everything that I've done, I've checked off every box that he wants me to give more. I mean, that's the one thing like charity. I'm just trying to give back more. Like last year I had a goal of giving $50,000 to various charities, and I hit my goal for the year last year. This year I just want to be more impactful with my giving is something that he would want me to do that I still haven't fully achieved. Like I would say that's the biggest thing. But outside of that, I'd say everything else is like on par and in heading in the right direction or already there.
The, on that same note, like, and I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, but like to me, whenever I see somebody super successful, it seems like they've always got something to prove. Whether to you, it's your 8-year-old self, to somebody else, it might be something different. Like, like, what are your thoughts around that?
I completely agree with it. I think everybody does, you know, mine, like I've had a chip on my shoulder since I was a little kid because I grew up the poorest one in a wealthy community. I had a LGBTQ mom. I was a single parent household. Like I had every odd stacked against me that you could possibly have stacked. And I grew up around a bunch of wealthy aristocratic children where their parents were either first or second generation money. They didn't have to work. When they got out of school, they could hang back and do whatever they want. They could take over their family businesses if they wanted, things like that. So like I was always and I got to know a lot of these kids and their parents as I grew up. And what I realized was their parents didn't possess anything that my mom didn't have other than an opportunity. And
Right.
and so what I saw was like these mothers weren't smarter than my mom. They weren't more attractive than my mom. They didn't have a better golf game than my mom. They had a hand of cards that was dealt that was different than my mom's. So I said, how am I going to stack the deck when I get older so that the cards are in my favor and so I'm winning and the house isn't winning? And so that's really what I focused my energy and attention on was, how do I build the best mousetrap or the best, pathway forward to make sure that the outcome was in my favor and not in the other side's favor. And I think that was kind of my driving factor that, helped take me to and elevate me to the next level. All the other things that came in, obviously were very, very important. Having a good team, hiring the right people around you, having good business partners, having good marketing and referral relationships, having great clients that refer their friends and their family and people to you. Getting married. My business skyrocketed after I got married. It did really well after I started having kids because people trust you more when you're married and you have children. They're like, well, if that woman can trust him and stay with him and give him children as well, then he must be okay. So on and so forth. So I'd say like it's all a combination of everything, but the driving factor behind everything is the chip on the shoulder.
And then what keeps that fuel going? Like what drives that fuel continually? Because obviously, things happen, things go sideways. Like what keeps you moving forward, or what keeps you with your foot on the gas?
Yeah, the only thing today that keeps everything going is having kids. I talk to a lot of people and I'm like, I don't understand how everybody has their own reason. Me personally, I don't understand how you could go throughout life without if you're not given the opportunity to, but if you have the opportunity to, I suggest everybody having children. Children give you reason to drive in the world and to move your life forward. And I think kids, at least for me personally, have been my biggest driving factor. Like having children and wanting them to have a life that I never had has been my driving force behind everything that I'm doing.
It
So
reframes everything.
yeah, kids are everything. And it's their reactions to things, it's how they respond to things, it's the legacy that I want to leave behind to them, it's what I want their life to look like versus what my life looked like. It's the kind of human that I want to help develop them or shape them into. Like there's just so many things, but like children have been my personal greatest gift since I've been on this earth.
I know you and I have talked about this, but we obviously, grew up not super privileged. And when you get into this a successful space, do you, and again, I know we've talked about this off camera, but like, how do you navigate making sure? Because like, you can't recreate that chip. Like that comes from your upbringing. And I know Brooks and I have spoken about this as well, but like, how do you navigate that path of like, I want to give my kids everything I didn't have, but I also, there's value in that chip that you have, or like where you come from, that you'll never be able to replicate in them. But like, you also like, for me, I know one thing I struggle with is I don't want to make my kids super soft also, right? Like I don't want to provide to them to the point where that now I've got two soft kids that don't have that fire. And now I know they'll never have the same experiences that I had that cultivated that. But how do you navigate that?
Yeah, for me personally, I spend a lot of time just uh, you know, th- thinking about kind of each individual situation as what is going to be the best outcome that's going to be the most teachable experience for them here. So like, for example, like a lot of families our age and our generation, and you guys and I have talked about this. Most parents have their kids all have tablets. Our kids do not. We use them for travel only.
Right.
Um,
Same.
We did the
and
same
and
thing.
and the reason being is because we didn't want them to be dependent on technology. We want them to go outside and get dirty. So like when we get home, like when I go pick up my kids here in 30 minutes and they go home, they're gonna go outside and play in our backyard. Because that's what I did when I was a little kid. So I'm always trying to shape their mind. The good things that I can take from my childhood, I try and instill them in theirs. And the negative things that I've seen throughout the world, I try and keep away at all costs if I can. And the things that I don't want them to grow up and be privileged. I try and strip those things out of the situation and say, hey, like, here's an objective view. Think about it this way. And then slowly start to integrate them into the things like we own rental properties that aren't in great areas. So, like, I've started to take my son down there and show him he's 6. He can start to understand things. So, I've started to show him, like, how other people live and just tell him, like, hey, buddy, like, your home is not how I grew up. And this is not how the rest of the world lives.
Right.
Like, you live this life, but this isn't reality. And like when you get out into the real world, you have to have a real view of really what happens and how it goes. And so he doesn't get it yet fully, but like just slow
Well,
exposure to those kinds of things that um, you know, can give them perspective that they don't have and probably won't have because of the life that they've been given and afforded. But just to show them that, hey, there is a real world out there and it's scary. It's not always rainbows and butterflies, and you got to be aware of your surroundings. So I think just constant awareness and bringing that awareness to the forefront, and having people around you. I mean, I surround myself. The guys that are my close friends that live in my community now, they all came from similar backgrounds to me, humble beginnings. They crush it in their space. They're not second generation, third generation money. They're not uh they're not living stretching themselves, living way outside of their means. Like, the people that I've chosen to surround myself with, again, my friends, the five F's that I was talking about earlier, they all came from very, very similar backgrounds to me, and we all share the same value system, and we all are raising our kids very similarly. So I think having alignment in your sphere and having alignment with everything that you're exposing your children to is very important as you grow and you scale in this world, because you may have an idea of what you want them to learn and how you want them to learn. Um,
But they're
but
going to learn from everything else around you
they're going to
too,
learn from everything else around them. So if you
right?
surround them with your environment and the environment you're trying to create with through your friends, through your faith, through your fitness, through your finances, and you teach them and instill discipline into them, it's naturally going to permeate into their own being and into their own existence. So I just think that's really important, is kind of setting the bar across your entire life and making sure the foundation is consistent.
Do
Yeah, I
you
mean,
butt heads with? Oh, sorry, Brooks.
I think you do. I think that's a great way to do it. I think to talk about it. I think you do get to sort of manufacture their world in a way, and creating a world where there's space for them to understand the tough parts of life, and surrounding them with the right people um, that aren't going to create challenges that hurt for them, and also that are also good role models beyond you. I think that's a great thing to have. I'd say I learned uh, after moving out of where I grew up that there was people beyond my little bubble. Growing up in Bexley is a little bubble, and for me, an aha moment was learning that I got to be someone different than high school or middle school, or that box you get put in by the people that have known you from or judged you or whatever from growing up, and going out to where I knew nobody in Denver, and got to start fresh with people and be myself. I think that was a great unlock, and the biggest piece of that was being able to remove people from my life
Yeah.
that weren't positive aspects. I learned I could do that over and over again. In your bubble when you're growing up, you can't do that. They're always going to be there. But once you get beyond that, once you get to be an adult, being able to delete those people from your life that are drags is so important, and
It's a
can
constant process
really.
too.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a constant process too.
It's a constant process. Yeah,
You got to kind
absolutely.
of look at it, and this thought just hit me as we're having this conversation. Is like your circle is like a pro football team, and every spring you got training camp, and like we're gonna make cuts. Like, and it might be a bad analogy, but like, man,
No,
you
No,
really
it's a
it's a
do
good
great
one.
become
analogy. It's a great
the
analogy.
five people closest to you, man, are who you're gonna become. Um, I just read a really good book that kind of talks on this. It's a short read, and it's actually you'd appreciate this because you can do it with your kids. It's like a 90-page book. It's called The Coffee Bean by John Gordon. And it talks about this concept of a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. And what happens when you put each one of them in boiling hot water? A carrot gets soft, an egg gets hard, and a coffee bean bleeds out and makes coffee. And how you're impacted by your environment. It's a really easy, simple read. It's got pictures and stuff in it, but like it's written as a kind of a business book, but it's written in the form of a fable, and it's a really good illustration just on life, especially with your kids, and like that circle and those people that you've got impacting? Like, are you going to allow your environment to make you soft, make you harder, or are you going to impact everybody around you?
Yeah, I like that.
Cool.
Um, you butt heads with any of your kids because they're one of them's most like you?
My son, identical to me, personality, looks just like me, personality just like
He
me. We
does look
butt
like a
heads.
mini you.
We butt heads a lot, and it's a good thing. He'll appreciate it someday. I'm tough on him because I didn't have a dad that was tough on me. I tell you guys this all the time. I'm too
Yeah.
soft on my daughters, but he will appreciate it because he's the one who's carrying my name. He's my oldest, and he's my only boy, so I'm always going to be tough on him, but I love him more than anything in the world. And I butt heads with him all the time, but it's because we're identical. My wife gets along with him and she won't admit it, but he is her favorite, and it's because he's just like me. So she's used to dealing with me, so she's used to dealing with him. But that's why she's always the voice of reason, because whenever I'm like, why is he being like this? And she's like, well, because you do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So
It's funny.
yeah,
It's hilarious.
he's also, you also view him as your 8-year-old self in a way,
correct.
right? And
Yep,
you don't want him to make the same mistakes you do, and you want him to have a leg up
I
that you
do.
didn't have.
I want all my kids to have a
That's
leg
the
up
hard note.
over. Yeah, my goal is to set them up so that they don't ever have to struggle, that when they get out of school or they get done with high school, whatever their path that they choose, they can get there a lot quicker and with less struggle than I had to get to where I'm at. Like
All right.
that's my goal is leave them in a position that, they have a launch pad to do whatever it is that their heart and dreams desire, but without the financial struggle and the personal and emotional struggle that I had to go through.
I know you got to go soon, so I want to finish up with a new segment we got called Rapid Fire. We're looking for short answers here. I'm going to go through this and just short, quick answers for me.
Okay.
First job.
First
What was your
job,
first? What was your first
period in
job
all of life.
in all of life? Your first job.
Server at an Indian restaurant at age 13.
Child labor.
that's
Let's go.
that's a good one. I started in restaurants too. That's good.
The
Uh,
restaurant got closed down because you can't serve at age 13.
biggest money mistake you personally made.
Oof. Biggest money mistake I ever made, buying a home with a girlfriend.
Good
And
one.
her parents were the bank.
Good one.
That was a big
Cool.
mistake.
That's a podcast on of itself.
Ohio State or Browns? Which one has disappointed you more?
Obviously the Browns. My team always wins on Saturday. My team always loses on Sunday.
Except for when it counts.
It's true.
One app or phone you couldn't run your business without.
One app or phone I could not.
App on your phone. Sorry, excuse
Oh,
me.
one app on my phone I couldn't run my business with the phone feature. My phone, nobody works harder in my business than my phone itself.
Good answer. Something you believe about money that most people would disagree with.
Uh, Cash is one thing that I said it earlier on. Cash is not king. Leverage is king. Smart leverage will take the wealthiest people in the world borrow against their assets to go and invest in other places that they know they can win and make an arbitrage, and then they reinvest that capital. My wealthiest clients, I've got a guy in Chicago that's worth 350, $400 million. He's got a $40 million yacht with a $25 million line of credit against it that he went and bought a business that's going to produce $100 million this year for him. The smartest people in the world are borrowing against stocks, are borrowing against their cash positions, are borrowing against the things they have to go make them more money. Smart leverage is king, cash is dead.
I mean,
Um,
maybe like buy out a business partner.
uh,
What's the
Next question.
what's the best trip you've taken with your family?
oh, I was going to say my trip to Africa that I just did was the best trip of my life. Best trip with my family was we went to Fort Lauderdale a couple years back during the F1 races, and we had the entire hotel to ourselves, and it was just so much fun.
Nice.
Simple trip. The beach sucked, but it was just a blast. We just had a great time.
Biggest fear as a business owner.
Ooh, biggest fear as a business owner is not being able to provide for everybody beneath me.
One thing you tell your 22-year-old version of yourself starting out.
Uh, whew, stop drinking.
Good one.
I like that one.
Blue Jackets or Browns? You had to pick one to watch the rest of your life.
Blue Jackets. No questions.
Toilet bowl.
One thing most people don't know about you.
One thing most people don't know about me. I'm OCD.
I like that.
Very OCD.
Last question. What's the game plan for Eddie for the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, get to a 20-hour work week, still generating the same revenue for myself and my family, and spend more time with my kids, and then position my business for a sale 10 to 20 years from now.
I like
Awesome.
that. Before we close, anybody listening that watches this, I want them to listen to the specificity that he just said that with. That was anybody who is a high performer speaks in very specific goals, not super macro terms. And the specificity there was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Answers were amazing. Really went into great detail and sharing stuff about your life, your personal life. I know we talk about it between the three of us a lot, um, but thank you for sharing it on the podcast and appreciate your time.
I appreciate the heck out of you guys, man. I hope this thing blows up, and I hope you guys are. I hope I can say that I'm on the next Joe Rogan podcast as the first guest.
That's not exactly the goal, but this is something that
Wait, what?
Hey,
this is something.
if you need any leverage to buy any partners out, you might want to do it now.
Might be tapped out there.
This is our flywheel. This is our capture conversation between friends. This is our learning moment, and something that we wanted to share with other people. So, thank you for being on here and sharing with us. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Hey, you
guys.
guys, thank you.
Take care, Eddie. Talk soon.
Did you guys get everything
Yep.
you needed?
Yep.